cannot change history. It sits on its own foundation. You must learn from it.
It's one small step towards this entire country.
I think it should have come down a long time ago.
Just want to take a picture. I don't know, many years from now, I could show it to my great-grandchildren.
It's a day to celebrate, but then tomorrow's the day to get back to work.
Erected in 1890 in a tobacco field in Richmond. Now, 131 years later, the largest Confederate statue in the United States, standing in the middle of Monument Avenue, has been dismantled. Thanks for joining us here at Midday. I'm Cheryl Miller. The removal of the Robert E. Lee statue marks a major moment for the city of Richmond, the Commonwealth of Virginia, and for our country. We have in-depth coverage for you. CBS 6's Cameron Thompson talked to local and state leaders about today's event. First, our Matthew Foltz has been on Monument Avenue since early this morning, even before the removal crews arrived. And Matthew, this is an emotional moment for many on both sides of the removal issue.
Just before 9, several hundred spectators and journalists watch as a crane lifts the 12-ton bronze statue off the granite pedestal. Cheers and applause echo through the fan district as this divisive symbol comes down.
Tear it down, there it is! Send that traitor to his grave!
Let's go! Get it out of there!
The state originally told us to expect an all-day event to remove this massive statue.
I guess the guy that's doing it is pretty good at it now.
Crews then cut the statue in half at Lee's waist to help safely transport the monument to secure storage at a state-owned facility and out of the former capital of the Confederacy.
Something needs to be done because our kids are out there getting killed.
The city is hurting, and it's like, what do we do? How do we overcome this?
Law enforcement right now feels under siege, and they're not using the laws and the tactics they know how to use.
We're predicting more than 500 patients, more than 120% increase in gun-related admissions to our level 1 trauma center.
Welcome to a special edition of CBS 6 News at 6, Crime 360. We're taking an in-depth look at the toll gun violence has taken in Central Virginia and the search for solutions. I'm Bill Fitzgerald.
And I'm Candace Burns, live from Radio Hill in Richmond. We have spent weeks speaking with law enforcement, community activists, medical workers, and the families affected by this crisis. We start tonight with our crime insider, John Burkett, who spoke with family members of a VCU student who was shot and killed while taking out the garbage during a streak of violence in the city of Richmond.
2021, Candace, has seen streaks of violence that's made headlines. Most recent was 10 killed and 13 shot over the 4th of July holiday weekend. And also months ago, it was the Easter holiday weekend where a wave of violence gripped the city's attention. The life-changing after effects felt 2 hours away in Buckingham County.
People need to put down guns because it's taking sons away from their mothers.
Words of wisdom.
I was very sad, and I just hope it wasn't him, because
From a grieving 9-year-old boy.
He was my friend. We always played together. He always used to smile.
9-year-old Kai Johnson says Abdul was one of his closest buddies.
This has affected a lot of lives, and it didn't have to happen.
Dozens gathered outside the OMG convenience store at the corner of Creighton and 9 Mile Wednesday night. It's where Abdul was shot walking to a car. His family owns the corner store. Prayers and community members trying to show strength for a family, enduring immeasurable pain.
It's just hard to believe that my friend is actually gone. And sometimes I just hope this is a dream.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome.
live with slavery and segregation 345 years. We waited a long time for freedom.
Dr. King did not give up. He did not give up. We can't stop now. We have to continue to do the work in the community.
It's just too depressing to think that things aren't going to change. You have to be optimistic to do this kind of work. I sure hope we can get there.
He has left a legacy for us, but just to hear his voice and him say to us, you know what, you're going to get there. You just have to keep pressing forward.
It's not a question just of Dr. King's dream. He would be the first to say that it didn't originate with me, but don't let it end with me.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's a great day for Virginia.
Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
No justice!
No peace! Martin Luther King Jr. got to this point for me just so I can speak.
I truly believe in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that all people are created equal, and that we all have work to do to create a more perfect union. I believe that with everything inside of me.
Welcome to the 43rd Annual Martin Luther King Jr. Community Leaders Awards celebration, sponsored by Virginia Union University and Dominion Energy.
Countless Virginians not getting the help they need, and they're desperate. Tonight we have complete, in-depth coverage. We're bringing you a special edition of The Rebound Richmond as we take a closer look at the state's employment crisis. Thanks for joining us. I'm Candace Burns. Countless people have reached out to the problem solvers with issues and concerns involving the Virginia Employment Commission. Our Bill Fitzgerald is anchoring our coverage from the state capitol this evening. Bill?
Candace, the pandemic has taken the lives of more than 10,700 Virginians and disrupted our school, work, and home lives for more than a year now. The economic toll has been as great as the personal one. Take a look at this graphic. It shows an unprecedented tsunami of layoffs, which began in early April of last year, with new claims going above 100,000 for several weeks in a row. The surge in unemployment led to more than 1.6 million claims being filed. That's more than the 10 previous years combined, with the state channeling some $13 billion to some 1.3 million recipients. But while the scale of emergency need has never been greater, Virginia has lagged nearly every other state in how quickly it processes both requests for benefits and then appeals. Now, these are the stories of some of the Virginians being left to wait seemingly endlessly. We begin our coverage tonight with a problem solvers investigation. Our Brendan King spoke to the lead attorney who is suing the state in a class action lawsuit over issues with the VEC. He tells us what they're asking for, how many Virginians will be represented by the suit, and what the likelihood is of winning a suit against a state agency.
So what have you been able to learn about the VEC? Why are the issues so prevalent? Why is Virginia ranked last?
One is that the VEC hasn't adequately staffed up.
He argues VEC only doubled the number of adjudicators who work on processing claims, from 35 to about 70, when neighboring states have gone big.
Maryland recently signed a $70 million contract to bring on over 300 deputy adjudicators via a private contract with a big staffing agency.
A VEC spokesperson tells CBS 6 they have approximately 100 individuals employed as claim adjudicators, most of them hired within the last year.
It's been over a year for Virginia to catch up, take bold steps like other states are doing, and they just haven't.
The attorney hopes a federal judge will rule that the state is violating the constitutional rights of the plaintiffs. He says similar legislation in New York and Rhode Island was successful. While the Northam administration won't comment on pending litigation, they say VEC has paid out $13 billion to 1.3 million people, more than over the last 10 years combined.
The American Academy of Pediatrics says the COVID-19 pandemic has taken a serious toll on children's mental health. CBS 6 wants to be a resource for parents and kids facing these challenges. In an effort to explore this issue and identify some of the specific challenges children are facing, we assembled a small group of mental health professionals and community members who have seen the impact of this firsthand.
I'm setting myself up every single day
to feel like a failure because I can't live up to that.
A lot of people are dissociating from reality.
And I actually address this almost with every single person who comes into my office. Parents are unsure of how to start to control their children's usage.
Welcome to a CBS 6 Gives Month of Giving special presentation, brought to you by Virginia Credit Union.
Giving to those who give back, surprising those in need, honoring heroes, and celebrating strangers. We've gotten to do all of that in this year's CBS 6 Gives. And it's amazing how happy some of these small gestures can really make someone. And we wanted to share some of our favorite moments with you.
We wanted to say thank you for what you did that day.
Would you accept a gift card from us?
Officer Anderson, you think we're here just to do a follow-up.
But what Sheila does not know.
We have quite the surprise for him. Come on.
This is amazing.
Are you kidding me right now?
Wow. I really wasn't expecting all of this.
I'm a little overwhelmed with just how good it feels.
You know, it gives you the chills.
I love it.
You sure surprised me.
We're going to add a lot more weight to that in the form of ice as we get into tomorrow. So let's check out the, first off, current conditions at our IC, and we're still sitting at 30 degrees. It's been a cold day. We never got back to freezing, and a little bit of wind chill as well, making it feel like 22. Other temperatures across Virginia are all below freezing for the most part. There are some exceptions. A few locations, especially south and east of here, did make it above freezing. And what we're going to see tomorrow is different than what we have had. We had some sleet and snow last night. Let me show you what happened with the sleet. With the sleet, you end up getting snow first. It melts in a small warm layer, and then it has plenty of time to refreeze into ice pellets. And that's what you get. When ice pellets are falling from the sky, bouncing off your hand, bouncing off your windshield, that's sleet. Falling ice is sleet. Freezing rain's a different animal. You got a bigger area of warm air.
Murderers are being released when they were sentenced to life in prison. What is going on in the parole department?
I can't speculate on something I haven't seen.
This is very concerning for the law enforcement community in Virginia.
People of Virginia deserve a whole bunch of answers.
I've just been very consistent. I want to make sure that we have a complete fresh start.
On January 15th, Virginia's new governor will be inaugurated. And one of the first things on Glenn Youngkin's agenda, shaking up the state agency that has power to grant inmates an early release from prison.
And as I've said on day one, I will change out the parole board, and we will have a new parole board on day one.
It was a focal point of Youngkin's campaign, and that of Virginia's next Attorney General, Jason Miyares.
Parole board scandal, in my opinion, is one of the worst scandals we've seen in state government in decades.
Exercising their constitutional rights.
At the bell tower at Capitol Square, normally the center of Virginia's annual lobby day. A hodgepodge of gun rights supporters, armed men in militia outfits, police, and maybe most of all, people with cameras. The warning of potential violence at state capitals leading up to Inauguration Day brought an air of tension to the streets of downtown Richmond.
We deal with gun rights in Virginia.
Pro-gun groups called their supporters to the Capitol, urging them to show up in car caravans and roll through downtown in support of Second Amendment rights.
Liberty and freedom are worth the risk. We cannot hide and not lobby the government because somebody might do something.
In pure defiance of this unconstitutional city ordinance.
A handful of armed members of anti-government extremist groups littered downtown, outnumbered at times by the flocks of cameras following them along. You may remember Richmond police posted signs saying guns would not be allowed near the Capitol building over the next few days, but you clearly saw that people were carrying them. Richmond police released a statement saying that the city and state ordinance bans firearms at permitted or unplanned events that would require a permit. They say since the groups that were carrying those weapons were fewer than 11 people, officers could not intervene.
The next person that kills a police officer in the line of duty, they're going to go to jail forever. That's justice.
The worst thing that we ever did was come to Cumberland Hospital. I'm gonna make sure that those who made my son suffer pay.
I'm committed to get to the bottom of this. Right now, he'd be looking down at me. You're gonna find out what happened to me.
My brother's soul still doesn't rest in peace. Well, I don't think we can continue to allow victims just to not have any rights.
To imply that their dad would ever do something like this to himself, I can't let that happen.
I will always fight for those who can't fight for themselves.
People deserve justice.
March 9th, 2018, the Department of Social Services would drive RH to New Kent County in the Cumberland Hospital for Children and Adolescents. She says she'd be greeted by Medical Director Daniel Davidow. RH says she'd detail her past trauma and triggers to the doctor prior to her admission physical.
And then he's like, okay, I have to make sure that your pulse in your private area is intact. He takes his hand with no gloves on still, and he puts his hand under he unbuttons my pants, puts them under my pants, under my underwear.
Allegations similar to those made by a dozen other young women who say they were sexually abused by Davidow while under his care. They are among the 20 former Cumberland patients who this past October filed a $127 million lawsuit against Davidow, the hospital, and the company that owns it. Herschel Mickey Hardin is also named in the lawsuit. The former Cumberland psychotherapist is facing criminal charges for what RH and the Attorney General's office says he put her through.
He sexually abused me so much, I can't even remember or count the times.
That they say have been threatened since last fall.
She's coming down through here like a bullet.
With every rain,
Effects of the disaster that Dominion has put in here.
they say a little more of their land
As you can see, this is not even a creek anymore.
gets washed away by Dominion Power's Belcher solar plant, which was developed on more than 1,000 acres behind them.
Each rain, you rip out a little bit more of your soil.
When the skies clear up over the solar plant, you get an idea of just how far that water has traveled and the damage left behind. Roots are exposed on the tree and the earth is literally torn apart. Some Louisa County Board of Supervisor members who visited the site after a CBS 6 inquiry and meeting with Dominion were critical of the project at their September 7th meeting.
It's pretty catastrophic. It's really bad.
We can't ever let anybody clear cut 1,100 acres ever again.
The very people that approved this project also visited the site, and they said that this was a terrible situation. They called it catastrophic. What is your response to that?
Well, I understand in a snapshot people could have, extreme opinions, but this project has had its challenges and has made its mistakes, and we understand that, and we've worked diligently to address those issues.
You're such an inspiration to all of us. Thank you for what you're doing.
I got Rob Ucrop out here with me. We have a surprise donation.
We're hoping that we can kick this thing of cancer.
We got to get that money for the kids. We got to get that money for the hospital to make sure we can find a cure.
We can wipe it out with your help.
Come by and make a donation. You can throw the ball that sinks the Crime Insider.
That's right. I've been waiting for this for a long time.
Oh my God.
Well, here we go.
Governor Doug Wilder's about to dunk me in the dunk tank.
Thank you, Central Virginia, for helping us raise over $9,000 for the Children's Hospital of Richmond.
An 8-year-old ambassador for alopecia. A lobbyist fighting for disabled Virginians. A group of friends spreading happiness. A chef preparing meals for students in need. And a school bus driver going the distance for kids. Heroes Among Us with Greg McQuaid, Thursdays at 6.
As a new day dawns, the nation's capital awakens.
All of America is right there in his hands. That's a big moment.
But one landmark nearby never sleeps.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
The tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery.
That first light of every morning and how the sunlight strikes the tomb and what happens there. It's mystical.
It's an unbroken bond shared between an aging soldier and the fallen who are forever young.
It's been put in our hands, that trust. America trusts us to make sure that the sacred duty is fulfilled completely, fully, forever.
They all have history.
Many of these instruments belonged to Jewish musicians in the early 1900s.
This is what those people had. This is what they could afford. The good stuff was confiscated.
Their violins survived. Many of the music makers did not.
We tried to bring them back to life, and with them, the story of their previous owners.
For Avshi Weinstein, the power of violins of hope rests in the sound.
In the end, we only know the final result when the violin is being played.
Sadness and joy reverberating across the decades. A sound that not only brings people together, but it can also bring them to their feet.
This is also a resurrection of these instruments to remind us of these people, to remind us of a terrible time, but also to give us hope. And that's why they're called the violins of hope.
An innovative music teacher. A 15-year-old who learned to fly. A local author's books about diverse students and families. Delivering books to underserved communities. The next generation of journalists.
Marker.
And filmmakers. Building Better Minds, sponsored by Virginia Family Dentistry.
The thing that we want to primarily assure is that every kid is going to be safe on this bus.
Maybe it's a lesson he learned as a Marine Corps officer.
I'm checking wiring. I want to make sure nothing's frayed, nothing's pulled apart.
Or maybe lessons learned during his time as Executive Assistant Director of the FBI.
So about half of the FBI fell under me, and I was, just for context, I was fourth on the FBI's food chain.
When most men his age would be playing golf or fishing, enjoying retirement, Mr. Mason is driving a school bus.
I've done some important things, but guess what? This is important too.
He was watching CBS 6 this morning recently when he heard Chesterfield County was in desperate need of school bus drivers.
When the pandemic struck, Rob, there were so many people that were doing so many extra things. People like you who still have to get out here. People like grocery workers, people like telecommunications workers, all kinds of folks who still had to do their job. And I felt like I could be doing something to help in this post-pandemic recovery.
The State Open of Virginia, live from Independence Golf Club.
Including freshman Brady Burnham, who is learning right alongside his teammates.
What do we do first?
Eat.
Do we warm up first?
Yeah.
And then what else do we do? Drills?
Drills.
Brady has Down syndrome.
Following Brady.
Which does nothing to dampen his enthusiasm.
He follows and he's learning and he's still a child at heart and he just wants to have fun. So, oh buddy, God, oh jeez. I love you too, man.
Much of Brady's contributions have been as a spectator, but earlier this season, Brady was surprised with the chance to be a full-fledged part of the team.
I just had the experience 2 times of winning,
So, I mean, I couldn't imagine like what it's like for him in like just like day-to-day life. So just like, of course I'd want to give him that experience, that good feeling of winning. When he got his hand raised and everything, he was so happy the whole time.
Both teams hosting is unique.
We get to show off how we do things just like the University of Richmond will.
Two great venues, 6 miles apart.
It's time to take a shot and aim high. It's just to walk through the fire. This is our moment. This is our moment. So don't give it up.
This has been the most challenging season.
I have never broadcast a game remotely.
He was the one who convinced me to get into coaching.
He was an unbelievable leader, maybe the best I've ever coached.
A10 and RVA, Rams and Spiders Unite. Sponsored by the Virginia Lottery, reminding you to play responsibly.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special presentation of CBS 6 Sports. I'm Sports Director Lane Casadante here at the Robbins Center on the campus of the University of Richmond.
And I'm Sean Robertson inside the Siegel Center, the home of the VCU Rams. Typically during this time of the year, you would find us in New York City, which has become the semi-regular home of the Atlantic 10 Men's Basketball Tournament. But Lane, the last year has been anything but typical.
As we all remember, last year's tournament at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn was canceled after just the first day of games due to the COVID-19 pandemic. 12 months later, most of the A10 men's tournament will be decided right here in Richmond. In a unique first, both VCU and U of R are co-hosting this year's tournament, 2 courts, 14 teams working towards one title. In just a few minutes, we'll check back in with Sean across town, but first, a behind-the-scenes look at how the coronavirus forced the A10 to get creative and come up with a novel concept for this year's competition.
Oh, I love this Christmassy time of year.
Oh, we're here, you guys!
Woohoo! It's that time of year.
The Dominion Energy Christmas Parade. Yes!
Santa, don't be slow. Just climb aboard and go, man, go. Santa's on his way. Well, Santa Claus is coming, it's a wonderful time. He's always cheerful and he's always so kind.
It's the folks on Broad Street.
It's him. It's Santa. You guys, it's Santa. Look.
Oh my goodness. Hi. I'll be seeing you in just a minute.
Hi, Santa.
Let's go there now.
'Cause Santa's coming. Santa's on his way.
Let's go. Let's do this. That way.
The Dominion Energy Christmas Parade starts now.
We made it.
We made it.
Hello, my friend, and welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning. Happy holidays. Welcome to the 38th annual Dominion Energy Christmas Parade.
Yeah, Richmond's single biggest one-day event is back live on Broad Street, and man, are we excited to be here.